www.anxietycenter.com.
Okay, well, thanks for having me on. And, after being here Anxiety Center for 8 years, and finally talking to you, hearing your voice, and you're almost like a celebrity. It feels like I'm talking to a celebrity here, but,
I recognized your name when you had messaged me, so that was...
Yeah. And as I, tell my story, you'll recognize me more. I worked with Stacy, periodically, and I came to Anxiety Center with just some work stress issues, and my doctor put me on Lexapro for about 1.5 years, and then I worked with a counselor that was not Anxiety Center related, and felt that I did a good job. All the symptoms went away. And then my doctor, I was gaining a lot of weight. I was smoking cigarettes, maybe drinking a little more, just stuff that wasn't me.
Mm-hmm.
And I asked my doctor to take me off, the Lexapro. And he said, well, just half your dose for a week, and then go ahead and stop it. And that's exactly what I did.
Oh,
because
wow.
I trust the doctor. Yeah. Who doesn't trust their doctor?
Oh, my.
And then I spent, a good 3.5 years in a kind of a withdrawal state, which was probably, perpetuated a lot by fear, because I didn't know what was going on. I had a lot of fear going on. It might have been a lot shorter if I had a, good handle on it.
Mm-hmm.
But nevertheless, it took about 3.5 years to get back to about 90%. And I had struggled with that. My main symptom was that just very, very intense agitation, like crawling out of my skin. I've always referred to it as akathisia. That's one word, Jim, that is just not really, it's the symptom itself is described all over the website, but the word akathisia is just not on your website.
Mm-hmm.
And, it took a good, 3.5 years to get 85-90% of that, out of my system. And then I had a kidney stone where I had to be taken to the ER, and I was administered antibiotics and pain medication. And overnight, all those symptoms came back even worse.
Mm-hmm.
And that was about 1 year ago. And I've been struggling with that for the last year. But this is where it gets kind of crazy for me, is this restlessness that I've always dealt with. And this might be, I have to tell you everything. Otherwise, it makes no sense to tell my story. And I'm going to tell it to you as gently as I can. And if you need to edit it out of the, edit the entire thing out of the Anxiety Center Skype calls, so be it. But I've always been sensitive to sexual activity,
mm-hmm.
meaning sexual activity will make my symptoms 10 times worse for like a month. And so I've always had to back off of that. And around September, I don't know, I started feeling better about summertime of last year from that kidney stone setback. And about September-ish, I got COVID. I got COVID pretty bad, and my symptoms escalated. They escalated very, very bad. But like John said, I didn't, say, oh, wait, it is what it is. And I kind of went the other way, like, oh my gosh, is COVID going to kill me? And, there was a lot of fear there. And I admit to that, I have a lot of, and you've always said, Jim, in the discussion forum that I have a lot of, what's the other one? Not the first level, but second level of recovery.
Yep.
And I have a lot of work to do on that. So there was a lot of fear of, what COVID's going to do to me. I have a child, I got to support her, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So the symptoms even ramped up even more. And I have a partner, my girlfriend, who's kind of on the fence, it's like, hey, I've been doing this for a long time. We can't really engage in any sexual activity. This is, where's this leading? So my life is just continuing to spiral, downhill. And so, okay, I have to satisfy my girlfriend. We go off and have a nice weekend, satisfy my girlfriend, have a lovely time. And I end up getting this, you have it on your symptoms list, this, kind of pressure in the pelvic floor area, like a groin pain, a bladder pain. But there's also like this constant arousal down there now.
Yeah.
And I think I've done some research and I've had it, I think it's something called PGAD or PGAD that women typically get, but men can get it too. So now that I have this issue down in my pelvis area, that's this kind of constant arousal, and I have this thing now where it's like, okay, do I have two monsters that are going to perpetuate each other? I have this constant arousal that I kind of have to relieve, otherwise I'll go crazy. But if I do that, then this internal restlessness and agitation goes through the roof, which may in fact perpetuate the other thing and is going back and forth and back and forth.
Yeah.
And so this was happening for, maybe a good month or so, and I lost it. And I absolutely had to check, like John said, I felt like my life was in danger. I absolutely had to check in fear of my life. And they put me on Abilify, lorazepam, which is Ativan, and Depakote. And so I got out of there. I felt better. I felt numb. I felt better. This was Christmas. I was released on Christmas night. And I just did not want to be on the Abilify or the benzo. So I said, well, it's only been 5 days. I'm going to drop them right now, and I'm going to stay on the Depakote. Well, I've been on the Depakote for about 3.5 weeks. And, I said, I still have this thing with my girlfriend where I have to, I'm pretty much at the point where it's like I have to just let her go, because if I'm going to recover, there's, just like the conversations are from the last callers, you have to do things. You just kind of have to cut things loose in order to recover. And that's what I'm going to have to do. But, once again, it was just like a week or two of, okay, I got to satisfy my girlfriend and I kind of have to relieve myself. And I'm only on this Depakote stuff. And so I did that. And now I'm just absolutely shaking in my boots. Jim, there's this one. I've heard you often say that when you got off your benzo, that you jogged for 3 or 4 days straight because that internal agitation was just so severe.
Yeah.
That's the way I feel most of the day. But you know what? It's funny because I can sleep. It's kind of hard getting to sleep, but I can get to sleep. So I just wanted to share that story to see if, your opinion. I know you're not a doctor and you can only share your opinion, but, all these things that I've told you about, and even hearing John's story, it makes me feel like, if you just do these things, and I've done them, and I've gotten a little better and then just jumped off the deep end into life again. But if you just do these things for long enough, and I heard you mention, it's constant repeated effort, moment after moment, day after day, week after week, that it will get better. But some of these odd things like the pelvic floor issues, I mean, am I like the first guy you've ever heard to have this kind of situation?
No, actually not. From a male perspective, we actually hear that quite often. People generally don't talk about it, but it's a common symptom. I struggle with that myself way back when.
Oh my God, that is such a relief. Okay. Yeah. Even the arousal part of it?
Yeah. I worked with actually a couple of male clients who had that very thing. In fact, it was so intense. They were sexually active almost all the time, but then that would just keep their body cranked up. So it became that negative cycle. So now with that particular symptom, there can be several causes, not just stress. Have you had, your doctor check you out and make sure there's no medical thing going on?
Well, that's the thing. I'm in, I don't know if I can disclose where I live. I'm in the States, in the state of Ohio, and that's as far as I'll go. But
Yeah.
the doctors it's tough to even find one who will do any more than just a blood panel, look at it and say you're fine.
Yeah. Yeah, because there's medical conditions that can set up that are stress-based that can cause the ongoing state of arousal. There's inflammation going on there. It doesn't have to be a bacterial infection. Typically, a good doctor will do a urine test to see if there's bacteria going on, if you have an infection. But there's a lot of times where it'll be a condition where you're getting a chronic prostatitis kind of thing going on, but it's not bacterial. If you go for regular prostate exams, has your doctor ever mentioned to you that the prostate has been a bit inflamed, or what's been going on there?
No, never. And but that's funny because prostate cancer actually runs in my family.
Yeah. Men should have prostate exams regularly. If the doctor's not concerned, then you don't have anything to worry about. They're typically pretty good at spotting those on regular exams. But the thing is, you can have a mild inflammation going on, and as you know, stress can cause inflammation problems.
Okay.
And it's kind of the reverse. Like if a person is, having an immediate anxiety attack, that the adrenaline will suppress the inflammation response. So that's why sometimes doctors will give you, cortisol-related steroids to try to bring the inflammation down. But when the body's in chronic state of stress, well, then the inflammation response just goes bizarre, and it can affect any part of the body. Just based on your comments, I don't know how far you've worked with Stacy on level 2 things, because it sounds like there's, some important level 2 things going on here that could.
Oh, there's a ton. Not to cut you off, there's a ton.
Yeah.
And I have to start working with Stacy. I mean, it's ironic because I started working with him again 2 weeks, or maybe even less than that, maybe even a week before that kidney stone happened. And he said, we did a Zoom call, and he's like, Jeff, I can't believe your fear level has dropped so much. You look so good. And I'm like, yeah, let's do this, man.
Wow, yeah.
We were going to work on level 2, and I started, I even started telling him, about the work issues I was having, and then that kidney stone hit, and it blew that completely out of the water.
Yeah, especially, the stress of that, and then the medications and coming off of those. Yeah, that's all going to ramp the body up. Yeah. Really distressed to hear how fast your doctor pulled you off of Lexapro, because that's not even, I don't even have words for that. That's just totally not appropriate. And that can throw the body into chaos, just that itself, never mind having to have anxiety on top of it. So you've had a lot of things that you've had to work through, and then COVID as well, so you got these main key things going on here that's keeping your body, amplified. What I would do, just because there's so many things here that would need to be investigated, I would certainly start looking at the level 2 things, especially in terms of how your body's responding to sexual activity. The strong symptoms in the pelvic floor. If you work on computers a lot, if you're sitting a lot of the times, that can really aggravate it, because in those floor muscles, it can either become too loose or too tight, one of the two. So there's a lot of different things that you'd have to explore to figure out what's going on there. Certainly talking with the doctor to explore the medical cause would be number one. That's what I'd be doing if you could, and if you can afford it. And then going after level 2 recovery work, really getting to the root of some of these things to figure out what's the mix that's leading you to this place. And then once you discover what the mix is, then you can start working at it to get rid of that, to get to a different place.
And it can be it's just my own kind of ask Jim for reassurance on. You said several that have had that problem where it's the sexual arousal, which feeds the the internal agitation.
Yeah.
I mean, it can be fixed, correct? And I'm thinking it can be fixed.
Oh yeah, you just have to figure out what's causing the cycle. If there's a medical thing, then you want to address the medical thing. And sometimes if it's like a mild bacterial infection, then antibiotics will take care of that. If it's an inflammation thing, changing diet to remove some of the, inflammatory foods can help. Certainly getting stress down. If it's a muscle tension thing or muscles too loose, there's, exercises a person can do to either build up or relax them. There's some people have found using a heat, between the legs, just relaxing can be helpful. It just really depends on what's going on. But that's why it's so important to really zoom in on what it is, right?
Right, and it is, I don't want to say it's a lot better, but it waxes and wanes. I mean, when it first started, it was acute. It was like, holy smokes! I mean, it is burning down there and constant arousal. And I'm a man, I'm a male in his 40s.
Yeah.
And I saw a pretty woman walking down the street or something like that. It would aggravate it.
Yeah.
And things like that just don't happen too bad anymore. They do happen, but it is kind of getting better. And I have read that, it kind of does that. It waxes and wanes. And this all started after the, weekend where me and my girlfriend had to just kind of, bite the bullet and, satisfy each other. And it was right after. I mean, right after we were done, it's like, I'm not settling down here.
Yeah.
So I hopefully, the infection and the prostate thing don't scare me, but they're a little bit alarming. And
yeah.
But I hope to, I like to think that maybe it could be more of a stress thing. I mean, is stress definitely a possibility?
It is. If it's chronic non-bacterial prostatitis, stress can really aggravate it. Because, again, stress can keep inflammation going. And that's what it is. Essentially, the prostate becomes somewhat inflamed. And it's, if I was to guess, that's what I'd be asking the doctor about, just to check and see if the prostate is somewhat inflamed. And it doesn't have to be inflamed much. It can be just a little bit. And that's what I, used to have. In fact, I went to the doctor one time and told him I was there to see them. And the nurse said, "Oh, sorry to hear that." And I'm thinking, huh? Until I realized that they're stubborn. Especially when there's stress involved. And so getting stress down can be a major help. Absolutely. Changing diet can be really helpful. Again, it depends on what's triggering it. But yeah, it's kind of a common symptom for men in that area, especially if men are sitting a long time in front of a computer. I see this quite often just because either they relax the pelvic floor muscles or they tense them too much if they're stressed. So just getting the stress down can make a big difference.
Okay.
Yeah, but so I would certainly, number one is to zoom in and find out what it is, what's causing it. And if it is stress related, if it's a mild inflammation and that's it, fair enough. Reducing stress, keeping yourself calm. I don't know, has it set up to be a bit of a fear?
It has, it kind of, when it drives that internal agitation, and right now this internal agitation is so bad. I'm like seeing stuff. I'm not like hallucinating and seeing, people or so, that aren't there. Mm-hmm. But I'm seeing spots and blobs and little, lights and things like that. And
okay.
I kind of feel weird, like derealization, depersonalization starting to set in, which I'm no stranger to by any means. Yeah. But it's back, and I don't like it.
Yeah. If you were to guess on a scale of 0 to 100%, where do you think your hyperstimulation level is at?
100.
Okay.
I've never been so bad, Jim.
Okay, sure. All righty. Well, then stress is definitely going to be playing a role here. And again, this is why it's real important. And we say this about every anxiety symptom. Make sure you talk with your doctor about them and you come to resolve. The doctor does tests and everything comes back normal. Well, then it's stress. But just guessing isn't helpful because then we just imagine the worst.
Well, that's what I'm doing with the medications. That Abilify, I did the number one thing not to do and got on the computer and found out, I watched every video and everybody who's had an adverse reaction to Abilify, which is an antipsychotic. It's supposed to be the most mild one. And I was on the lowest dose, but nevertheless, I feel the way I feel.
Yeah.
And, 5 pills worth of Ativan. I mean, I didn't take Ativan long at all. So,
good.
But then now I'm still on this Depakote, which is an anticonvulsant.
Yeah.
And that is running in the back. Every night when I take it is like, is this contributing to it? Every single night when I take that medication.
Yeah. Yeah. I would certainly be working at level 2 recovery. There's some things going on here that's driving your anxiety for sure.
Okay.
I would even guess that there's some health and medical fears going on. Would that be true?
Yeah. Well, I mean, just see, if I didn't have my little girl, or she's not so little, she's only 14-year-old. She's my life.
Yeah.
If I was just I'm not young anymore, but if I was just some male bachelor who was kind of on his own, I would not nearly have the fear that I have now. But since I have my daughter in my life, and I don't want anything to happen to her father, that's where all this fear is created.
Sure. Yeah. So there's, again, anxiety always comes down to behavior. And so we want to find out what's the behavioral things going on. First off, rule out the medical stuff and then go after the behavior, because when we change behavior, then the body changes. But so that would be the thing that I'd recommend. Connect with them and really get to the root of some of these level 2 recovery things and start working from there. Because, we can spend our entire lives putting out symptom fires and never really make great progress. We can have periods where we feel fine and then we're back to the mix of it again. So to really get rid of this, you have to go after those behaviors. So that's what I would be doing if I were you.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. The Stacy is, I think he's booked for a month or something like that. If he's even.
Yeah, he is booked quite regularly. Yeah. Even when he opens up, he's usually closed up within a day or two. So, but he does cycle back to, clients he's worked with. So send him an email and tell him you'd like to reconnect and see if he can fit you in. Yeah,
we're friends. We're not friends on Facebook, but we're on Messenger. I can text him on.
Yeah. It's just, it just gives reassurance. I have seen a lot of this, but it usually does come down to going after the level 2 recovery work and getting that stress down. Certainly getting stress down is super important, but in order to get the stress down, you have to get the level 2 recovery stuff done. Or not even done, but at least addressed so you know what's going on. Because as I mentioned over and over again through our materials and on these Skype calls, we don't want to be in symptom management for the rest of our life. And how you solve that is by going after the behaviors that crank up that stress. Yeah.
Yeah, at this point, I really just want to get on the path leading the right way. I've dealt with the symptoms, and please, and everybody that's listening to this, I think we have like 7 people here today. Don't think that, I have just not done this well at all, because I get better and then I just jump back into life doing all the wrong stuff and get worse again. But at this point right now,
but you got guts.
Yeah.
You got guts.
We deserve a medal.
I mean, to come on with and talk about what you've been talking about. I got mad respect for you. That takes guts.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing. It really is.
Yeah.
You got guts. I mean, if you can do this, you can get through anxiety recovery.
You should have seen what the ER doctors their looks on their faces when I was explaining this stuff to them. I mean, literally. Yeah. And my own doctor even.
Yeah.
But at this point, I just want to.
They probably just are surprised that you're brave enough to talk about it.
Well,
to be honest with you, because they probably have the same problem you do. They just never have the guts to talk about it.
Yeah. Well, I don't. As soon as I got done talking about this, there were 2 police officers, escorting me to the
inpatient.
Report. Yeah. So, but anyway, I was,
I checked, and Stacy's next opening is February 7th.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna text him, today.
Yeah.
But at this point, Jim, I just really, I've been living with the symptoms long enough. I can hack it. First thing is I just want to get on the path leading the right direction. I'm going the other way. I don't want to go the wrong way. I need to go the right way. So Thank you very much for your help.
Oh, you're welcome. I just wanted to add is, with hyperstimulation being to the degree that you have it right now, a lot of these things will settle out as you get that level of hyperstimulation down. So certainly work at level 1 recovery again, but the emphasis on giving your body time to recover and all those things is certainly going to help. But going after level 2 is really what's going to make it for you.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I do. I notice it seems like your timeline is. I've always thought that you don't really see anything for 3 months, and you don't. You don't, like, even if you do, it's just so minuscule. It's tiny, and that it's right around that 6-month mark. This whole time I've been going through this, it's like you have to really kind of put in the work for 6 months, and then notice that there's something there, and then it just kind of feeds on itself. So
and that's 6 months of doing everything right.
Everything right.
And
nothing blindsiding you either, that you have no control over.
Yeah, like getting COVID. That's for sure. COVID. So,
COVID really messed me up but I there was a lot of fear there. So anyway, I want to have someone else talk, and I really appreciate, and I'll stand by. Thank you.
That sounds good. Well, thanks again. I appreciate your vulnerability to talk about that. It is more common than most people think, and it does resolve when you do the right thing. So, be hopeful.
That you've restored my hope substantially today, Jim. Thank you very much. Oh, and one last question, real quick: is the discussion forum page open?
Yeah, it should be. Yeah.
Okay. Last time I was there, I couldn't get in. It didn't accept my password, and then it gave me this 38-letter password that was really, really hard to remember.
Oh, but when were you there last?
Oh, probably a good month ago, maybe even 2 months ago.
Oh, yeah, you could have caught us when we were transitioning to the new server. Yeah, we had some issues when we went to the first to the server we're on now, but it has been working. I've been back there, and people are chatting there, so certainly pop back there. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I certainly will. Thank you so much, Jim and John. Your story helps me out a lot, and Marguerite, even your comments are wonderful to hear, and thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you for being, golly.
Thank you.
Yep, absolutely.
Hang in there.
And everybody does what you did. I mean, I had a nervous breakdown in October 2017, took some time off, got to feeling better, and was right off to the races.
Yep.
But those relapses, Jim, they're mean. I don't know why they're so much worse, but the relapses was worse.
Yeah, they certainly can be for a lot of different reasons. Yeah, you bet. Yeah, but and hopefully they are the motivator for us to deal with this anxiety thing once and for all, so we don't have to keep going back there. Because if we don't deal with it, that's what we do. We just keep on, over and over and over again.
Well, it's funny. It's just on the relapse. I mean, this PGAD stuff for me was absolutely the cherry on the top of, it's like I've been doing this for 8 years, and it's just okay, kind of tapping my foot, all right, let's go. We got to get back on track. Okay. We feel like we don't feel great today, but we can motor on. We need to do this. We need to contain. Don't forget to, deep relax. But then, I get this one, after COVID, I get this one symptom, and it's beyond relapse. This is just in another world. This is another level of what I'm dealing with. And honestly, if I didn't hear Jim say what he told me, about, it resolving when you do the right stuff, obviously, I don't know what I would be thinking right now.
Yeah. Well, you have guidance now. If you work at it, you'll succeed. But as patience. Got to be patient. Yeah.